days, why are universities so determined to fuel anti-white hatred? And that's what's happening. They're using this. One writer described it today in one of the papers. He says this will turn universities into factories for indoctrination. And I think that is true. We're going to have kids paying £9,000 a year to have their coursework diluted and polluted by a left-wing ideology that is masquerading as fact. And it's not fact. This is just the left-wing bias that a lot of universities are promoting now. You know, they're talking about decolonising the thing. Decolonising doesn't mean explaining that Britain gave the colonies independence and skills. It means demonising everything we have ever done. And that's not right. Of course, parts of what we did in colonisation were bad, but things were good too. But that won't be taught in universities. It'll be the bad stuff.
Henry, is this anti-white and anti-Western?
I don't know on what planet Carol is living on today.
Well,
where is the evidence of anti-whiteness? It's extraordinary. It's extreme. What you said is extreme. It's hysterical.
They're telling people
it's insane
that all white people, whether they know it or not, are racist. That's what they're going to be.
Nobody is saying that.
Teaching
that is a complete warping of what quotes critical race theory is from the hard right or in the southern states in America. These are the kind of people who call gay people groomers. These are the kind of Trumpists. These are the kind of people whose own polluted ideology is coming into this country.
We hear about the critical race theory in this country all the time, applied in terms of education. We hear it all the time, Henry. It's not just in America.
No, Carol, critical race theory is not one great big lump of ideas. All it is giving people context to the knowledge that they're taught in school and university. Our universities are seats of learning, global seats of learning. They're global seats of learning. No, they're not. They're not. The global seats of learning. If it weren't for the universities being places for the battle of ideas, we wouldn't have had... No, can I finish the point, OK? Where did the great fights against apartheid, against patriarchal suppression of women...
You're talking about a long time ago, Henry.
No.
That's not today. That's a long time ago.
It continues to this day. If it weren't for the kinds of movements that we saw in universities 50 and more years ago, you and I would not be sitting here as equals on this. We wouldn't be sitting here as equals on this platform.
Does not exist.
All those
today.
movements. Carol, can I finish?
Henry, those movements.
Carol, let me land, please.
Well, I know what you're
Carol, let me land. All those movements that we denounce as woke now, right? 50 or 60 years ago, fights against apartheid, pro-feminism, against the Soviet Union were considered woke then.
No,
that's the whole point. Yes, they would. They would have used a different word for it. They would probably call it anti-white.
Tell me something then. Why would anyone... You say that universities are a place for learning and enlightenment. No, they're not. Why then are so many lecturers fired because they contravene the left-wing ideology?
How many lecturers have been fired,
Well, there was a lady last year whose name I can't remember
Kathleen
now.
Stock.
Yes, she was one.
That's one.
But they get criticised all the time. They get bullied, they get harassed. Students...
Carol,
you said to let you land.
Let me land.
Okay. Right. So, students all the time, they deplatform speakers whose views they don't agree with. The whole point about going to university is that you listen to a plethora of views.
That's the whole point.
But they're not being allowed to do that because they deplatform speakers.
Henry, Carol does actually have a point. There was an article not so long ago that said, the younger generation now, although appear to be more liberal, are actually not very flexible in their views. They don't like to take on anybody else's views, and they're very much into the cancel culture, which I think is what Carol...
That may have been a survey done by an organisation
No, Henry.
Which is part of the hard right from the States.
That's the perceived thought at the moment about universities.
Carol, what critical race theory, and I suppose the QAA and decolonisation is trying to do, is to say that not every great invention in the world, not every great discovery came from Greece, ancient Rome, and the descendants of that canon of learning. When it comes to mathematics, do you know where it came from?
I don't know.
Right, OK. The ancient Sumerians from Mesopotamia, OK? Who is the father of modern medicine? A lot of people would say, well, it's Hippocrates, the Hippocratic Oath. But before Hippocrates, there was Imhotep, who was doing the same thing in ancient Egypt over 2,000 years ago. That is the whole point about, quotes, decolonising the curriculum. So it isn't just about the old classics from ancient Greece and Rome and then the descendants in Europe. It's about world history, and that's why I support this. It's giving people...
I think you think that that is the notion. I don't think that will be the reality.
Well,
that might be that.
You're not at university, how do you know?
And I only say that because of what we hear every day about universities. universities right now.
But we hear about it in certain newspapers that have a vested interest in getting everybody angry and claiming that it's all about anti-whiteness. It's not. It's about world history.
When students are being when they're being taught Shakespeare or literature, tell me why people with supposed open minds have to be given trigger warnings about when they hear about a murder in a fictional play. Tell me what kind of student we're breeding these days.
Let me tell you this. I mean, I've not been to university for a long time. I was, 30 or so years ago. We were never given trigger warnings about the French literature or German literature, and I suspect in most universities today, very few students are given trigger warnings.
Oh, you can't say you suspect, Henry.
Which is why it makes news.
I think what we're doing is going slightly off the topic because what you're referring to is young people being snowflakes and needing to be wrapped in cotton wool. What we're talking about here is whether it's too woke, whether we are opening up fields that don't need to be open,